your console. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's speakers, Al Garcia, the Vice President of Sales at Contactability, and Scott Ankley, our Partner Development Director at Velocify. Welcome, Al and Scott.
Hey, thank you very much, Tracy. It's a pleasure to be here. And, hey, thank you for everyone who's logged in right now listening in, either on your phones, on your computers, at wherever you are. I promise you the investment of your time will be worth it. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Working with Contactability as a VP of Sales, I've worked with sales teams and with insurance agents for a little over 10 years, been helping them enhance and take their businesses from pretty much zero to hero. So that's what I've done for the last decade, both domestic and abroad with sales teams in Cairo, Egypt. I've helped in sales teams in Mexico, in the Philippines, and in Belize. And I currently reside here in the lovely Columbus, Ohio. So thank you for that greeting. How you doing, Scott?
Can't complain over here in lovely Southern California. I assume our winters are a little bit different, but
a little bit.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. My name is Scott Ankley. I'm the Director of Partner Development at Velocify by Ellie Mae. We're a market-leading provider of cloud-based intelligent sales automation solutions. I'm an expert in increasing lead conversion rates through the effective use of marketing and sales automation tools that helps businesses improve their overall customer acquisition practices. I'm also just want to say I really do love the ability to kind of discuss best practices within sales organizations, and I love doing these webinars because at Velocify, I'm at a very unique position to gain a lot of insight from our power users and really successful sales organizations. And the hope is to be able to share a lot of those kind of tips, hints, and best practices so that way your insurance team can see those same results.
Awesome, awesome. Well, good stuff. Thank you very much. And again, Tracy, thank you so much, guys. I got to tell you, we've been partnered up with Velocify for nearly a decade now, and what we're doing together, and I'm happy to announce that we've combined forces with an ultimate purpose of helping the insurance agency grow and expand and increase their book of business. You know, this is not an easy task to be an insurance agent. I've spoken to, met with, and had lunch and dinner with, and laughed and cried with hundreds of insurance agents. I hear the stories of success, but also the stories of failure. And in my opinion, guys, you have to experience certain failure in order to really grasp on and appreciate the success. So you're in for a good treat today. We're going to talk about 6 tips. And let me tell you, these are tips. These are not magic pills. These are tips on how to close more insurance leads. If you're an insurance agent and you have a desire to, why not, be number one in your state. Take your business from where it's at right now and step it up a couple of notches. If you have a desire and a passion to be better at what you're doing and make more money while you're at it, then welcome to this webinar. You are in the right place. And for the next 30 to 45 minutes, I promise you we're not going to waste your time. So, hey, without further ado, why don't we go ahead and start with tip number one. And as we bring that to the slide here, before we take that tip number one, I'm going to ask you guys a question. I see it here. You should see it on your screen too. I want to get a better idea, a better understanding of the audience that we're speaking with here. So if you don't mind, take a couple of seconds and answer this question really quick. How many years do you have in the insurance industry? Is it 1 to 3? Is it 4 to 5? 6 to 10 or over a 10? Again, just so I can get a better understanding of who I'm dealing with, who I'm talking to here, and take a couple of seconds, if you don't mind, and answer these questions very briefly, and I'll let you guys do that for the next, 15, 20 seconds. Okay. All right. Let's see what we've got here. Thank you so much for your participation, you guys. And, wow, this is an awesome, awesome dynamic we have here. Just so you guys know, who are your fellow agents that are logged in, listening in with you. We have 16% of the audience that is in the business for 1 to 3 years. Congratulations, you guys. You're going to get something amazing out of this. 16% are in the range of 4 to 5 years. 24% of you are in the range of 6 to 10 years. And I'm equally excited to announce that I'm identifying 44% of you that are in the 10-plus range. Congratulations, you guys. That is an awesome poll that we're doing here. I have a good range of experience. And luckily, the leads industry, guys, is good with any type of agent who is, either brand new or in the business for 10 or 20 or 30 years. In my experience, we've been working with a broad range of professionals. So let's start with the top closers. Listen, you're investing a lot of your marketing dollars in working with leads. One thing that I've identified with agents that I work with, when they have struggled, they're trying to get the most out of the marketing dollars, and then they make an investment in buying leads, and they're not having the right people work their leads. Now, in this audience, I know I probably have some agents that are probably, single, just agents that maybe work from home or maybe have a small office. I may have some agents who, may have 1 to 3 to 5 producers. And then I have agents who have a huge, maybe call center with 50 phones or 100 desks. So whichever the case is, I've come across situations where an agent hires new staff, right? They're brand new, and they want to get them ramped up. They want to get them, up to speed, maybe closing some deals faster. So then they give the real-time leads that they spend a lot of money in and funnel them to these brand new agents. Now, I got to tell you, this is where one of the mistakes comes in. My tip for you is this: have your insurance leads work by your top producers and top closers. If you want to get a true ROI in your investment of leads and marketing, have your top producers close them and work them. If you have newer agents and you want to get them ramped up and trained, and that's a bad investment of your marketing dollars, having them work those leads. If you want to train somebody who's brand new, have them sit next to your top producers as they call and close the leads that you're spending so much of your money in. If you really want to get a true picture of how valuable your leads are and how effective they are, have your top producers, work those leads. I remember I had a conversation with an agent not too long ago who, made an investment with our organization and, bought some leads from us. And, from time to time I talk to these agents and I just ask, well, how is it going? And, well, it's just not going as great as I'd like to have, Al. And my question was, what's your process? What's the first thing you do when you get one of my leads? And the answer was shocking, but only because he's been in the business for so long. But it's not anything that's new. He told me exactly this. I have a system where they get filtered to just random people who are available, and that's great because time is of an essence, and we'll be talking more about that here in the session. But as I asked them, let's create a process for your leads that get funneled to your top producers and the top closers who are the best of the best. And let's try this process here, a small little change in your process, and then we'll follow up again in a couple of weeks. And I was happy to hear after the follow-up that it was a 180-degree change, which is pretty drastic, I'm sure you'd agree. And he started seeing some very, very positive changes just by having the right people and holding them accountable to being effective in closing these leads. So tip number 1, have your insurance leads worked by your top producers. Very, very important. Let's take it to tip number 2. If anyone in this phone call here has been in sales for any length of time, it's maybe a cliche, right? It's the sense of what? Sense of urgency. Urgency, urgency, urgency. Look, this is not a, get-rich-quick scheme. It takes, obviously, a sense of urgency. And I get some insurance agents that are under the impression that when they buy leads, when they either call them, they're going to have that consumer with their credit card in their hand and say, hey, this is John. You ready for my credit card number? And so these are going to be laydowns, if you will, and that's obviously a sales term, somebody who's just ready to buy and gives no objections or gives no hesitation, just moves forward with the policy, right? That's sadly, that's not always the case. And why am I saying this? Ladies and gentlemen, urgency is extremely important when you're working with your internet leads. We know, obviously, time is of an essence, but you have to have a sense of urgency. And I got to tell you, I work with, sales teams. I've been working with teams for a very long time, and one thing that I preach and teach all the time And one phrase that I'll share with everybody in this call, and feel free to write it down or keep it for yourself too. So this is a quote that I've created a couple of years ago, and to this day I still use it. What do I have to do right now to get me closer to my next sale? So if anyone here is in sales, I'm sure you appreciate that quote. I'll let you have it. It's a freebie. What do I have to do right now to get me closer to my next sale? If you're an insurance agent, my next policy, my next client, my next whatever, right? What do I have to do right now? And the key word to this entire phrase is right now. Why is that so important? Because right now implies a sense of urgency. So these, when you invest money, typically is a real-time internet lead. I will highlight or underscore the words real time, meaning that they're shopping or seeking for insurance when right now. If you hesitate, if you're not operating on all 6 or 8 cylinders and have a high sense of urgency, sometimes I have to ask, why are you in sales? Because this is what the name of the game is. I ask my team sometimes, do you want sales? Yes. When do you want them? You want new policies? Yes. When do you want them? Right now or in 6 months? True answer is both, but you want to start the process right now. I'm going to ask you guys for a quick couple more seconds of your attention on the screen here. With agents who would make investments in buying leads, just, for my curiosity, and of course I've seen answers that are all ends of the spectrum, but here's another poll question I have for you. What has been your biggest challenge in working with leads? What has been your biggest challenge in working with leads? Then I'm just kind of curious, and I'll share with you what the audience is replying to this. What's your biggest challenge? Isn't it contact rates? You just can't seem to get in contact with that lead. Or is it invalid, like bogus? They're just bad altogether. And by the way, bad is a very vague term. We try to specify what exactly are you experiencing. But it's invalid, bogus leads, right? Number 3, insufficient filter options. In other words, the lead is okay. I just need them to be a little more specific, better to fit my niche or the programs that I have available for them. Or lastly, is the lead just not interested? The person I spoke to was just not interested at all. I'll give you a couple of seconds to answer that. All right, so let's see what everyone here has contributed to this. All right, so 35% of you guys are telling me that the biggest challenge is your contact rate. You just can't seem to get in contact with your leads. 12% of you are experiencing invalid or bogus leads. Another 12% are experiencing insufficient filter options. Okay. Lastly, which is not surprising at all, 41% of you are telling me the lead is just not interested. Awesome. We'll be touching on these points a bit later today, but thank you for your responses there. At this point, I want let me chime in, Scott, real quick, because I've been learning so much and working with Velocify and with Scott particularly that this has me so excited. Scott, share with us what you have here.
Sure. I think pretty much kind of hitting along the lines with the poll results in terms of having contact rate issues or the leads are not interested. A lot of times what we find is part of the times that the contact rates and the interest isn't necessarily there is based upon the sales reps' outreach and their contact strategy. And what we're looking at right now is a quick infographic from one of our go-to kind of research reports called the Ultimate Contact Strategy, which analyzes 3.5 million leads created over a 6-month period, and it goes for 400 Velocify clients across multiple different industries. And what we're really kind of trying to do is recommend the right volume and frequency for all types of contact attempts, calls, emails, and with the ultimate goal of increasing the maximum number of conversions. And so if you kind of look at the graph right here, it's the early bird gets the worm. Right when a lead comes in your system is generally when a consumer has raised their hand and said, I'm interested in looking at a new insurance policy. And as of that time, that consumer's focus is specifically on trying to talk to somebody about this. Now, as you continue down and wait longer and longer to actually call that lead, that person, that consumer, might not necessarily be in that mindset anymore, might not be in front of his computer, and might not be really kind of in that thought process of speaking about insurance because they're potentially in the middle of their day. They're back at work. And the goal of this is right when that consumer gives that intent, let's see how we can kind of contact them. So looking at the graph right now, within the first minute, the conversion rate increases almost up to 400% because you're ideally going to reach that person instantly right when they're ready to speak about this lead. And so each minute that you wait following the first call severely reduces your chance of conversion. And that's just a matter of you're not engaging the prospect at that right moment. And that research really kind of hits home the fact that fast response times builds confidence and rapport with the consumer. Both of those things are very key to actually increasing your chances of overall conversion. So make sure you're the first one there, and then we'll keep moving forward, and we'll make sure that you're also going to be the last one there, so you're always at the top of the mind as a consumer for fulfilling their needs.
Awesome. That is awesome. Listen, thank you for sharing that. And two things that I picked up on that is, gaining confidence from your client and that quick rapport. Obviously, the combination of those two is going to lead you closer to what we're talking about right now, better experiences and more effectiveness in your program and your leads. Let's take it to tip number 3 really quick, knowing the system. Now, I can't emphasize the importance of this, knowing the system that you're utilizing. So know your lead provider system and develop a close relationship with your account manager. Let's talk about these two items really quick. So, in this day and age, we have technology galore, right? We live in a microwave age now, right? We want everything now, and devices and upgrades seems to be a constant thing, and sometimes it's hard for us to even keep up with the training. But guys, look, you need to understand that the more you know how to navigate your back office, your agent center, your agent portal, whatever you want to call it, is extremely important. Every lead vendor that you work with, and by the way, you can work with multiple, obviously. Become familiar with the back office and have a strong relationship with the account management team. At Contactability, we have a sophisticated system. Not only gives you tutorials and videos and additional training, but also allows you to chat in. Obviously, that's an option that many companies have. But the relationship that we allow you to have with your account manager, I can't emphasize that enough. What is one of the reasons that systems don't work? Or that lead or agents have a hard time finding success with their leads is because they just really don't know, don't have the best strategy or the best system. So having that relationship with your account manager is going to help you boost, and have you experience greater success because there's a constant relationship, constant communication. And I'm not talking about spending hours and hours on the phone with them and talking about their kids and grandchildren and how they spent the weekend. I'm talking about that connection, that build that rapport, know that they're an email or a phone call or a text message away. Have that rapport with your account manager and know the system. Become familiar with it. Know how to log in and request a credit for an invalid lead. Know how to disposition the leads that you invest so much of your money on. All those things are extremely important. So, ladies and gentlemen, know the system that you're using. Scott, you want to chime in on this real quick?
I just kind of would follow up with, in terms of finding your right closers, knowing kind of the system and knowing the capabilities of what you're able to do once you actually can harness the power of data. And I'm going to kind of harp on that a little bit more, but data doesn't lie, and using kind of historical trends and analytics can make a big difference to future earnings potential within sales organizations. And it's something that I personally have seen the people that are really kind of becoming power users and growing their organizations in terms of 5 to 10 to 25 to 100 plus kind of producers under their wing. They really are getting kind of hourly reports on everything that's happening within their CRM, within their tools, how each sales rep's working each specific campaign, and being able to kind of make decisions on the fly using kind of all of these metrics as opposed to kind of in the past using your gut feeling.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott, for that. Let's go to tip number 4, guys. Dedicate time. Isn't that interesting? Time. Something that will we'll never get back if we waste. But, dedicated time to the insurance lead or insurance call program is very important. And I'll just recap again. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not something that's designed to get you from where you are to maybe the number one in your state by tomorrow or next week, although that sounds fabulous. It doesn't always happen. I got to tell you a real quick story. I had an agent client of mine call, and he wasn't finding the immediate success that he had desired at first. So after a couple of days, he decided to pause his account. Just put it on pause. Let me just, it's not quite working out, and that's fine. We respect that, no problem. But I got to tell you what happened a week or two after that. I got a phone call, and I wasn't able to take the call, but it went to the voicemail. And when I heard that voicemail, it not only made my day, but actually gave me goosebumps, and I had to have a telephone conversation with this agent. But the voicemail itself, it was the agent just tickled the pink. He was so excited. You could tell in his voice he had a wonderful experience. He said, Al, you know what? I stopped the service, and obviously, I stopped getting leads. But one of the leads that I got during the period of time that was on, replied to me, and I had a conversation with him yesterday. He signed on. I got his business, got the policy, and I forget what policy it was, but he was so excited. He shared with me how much commission he had earned on that one policy, and he said, what do I got to do? Turn this thing back on because I want more, right? And obviously the tone, I have to just reiterate, was so exciting and just like, wow. It's like I made his day. He made so much X amount of money on that policy. What I'm trying to say is this. Not every lead is going to close right away. In fact, the majority of them might end up closing eventually that you do close. So dedicate the right amount of time, and this is where strategy comes into play. And for this, I'm just going to turn it over to Scott since he's the expert in the industry and learning so much from him. Scott, you ready?
Always, my friend. So first graph we kind of talked to in regards to the instant access, reaching out right when the lead kind of says, hey, I filled out a lead form. I'm interested in hearing about insurance policy. As important as that first call is, more than half of all prospects that eventually convert are actually reached after that first call attempt. So it's important to be there first, put your flag in the sand, make sure that somebody realizes that right when they kind of put in that consumer buying intent, that you're going to be the one that kind of will be there to service them and take you to the finish line. It's also really important to realize that it might not be that one call close opportunity. That's obviously what everybody hopes and dreams it'll be, but as you can kind of see in this graph, shockingly, 50% of leads are never called a second time. And it's pretty crazy to think that if you're purchasing a lot of these kind of marketing leads, pay-per leads, and you're spending a lot of money in terms of your marketing budget, that if your sales reps are only making a one phone call, some of these people aren't even leaving a voicemail and thinking that the consumer is going to reach back a phone number that's just on their missed call log, they're really not understanding kind of the best practice within that kind of sales process. So the graph kind of on the left shows that you're going to need to make about 6 phone calls within a kind of a 2-week period. And at the end of kind of that 6-week stretch, which is kind of what we have within our Ultimate Contact Strategy, which we will be making available to everybody on this call, that 93% of all leads are kind of converted in that 6-call attempt. And why I harp on that is after that 6th phone call that your person has reached out that many times and not necessarily had that contact, our research is really showing and supporting that there's probably more important, more timely things, prospects, leads that your insurance team should be working, because after that 6th call, you're almost kind of reaching that marginal returns, law of diminishing returns, where their time is best used elsewhere. And without having something that can really track and show kind of the evolution of each of these leads, because there's a lot going on within a day-to-day of an insurance sales rep, an insurance agent, and if they're making a 10th phone call to a lead that's stale, that hasn't necessarily showed any type of interest, and they're waiting and not necessarily calling the brand new leads in their system that should be their top priority, they're really missing out on a lot of opportunity. And so that's kind of what we want to kind of nail home, is the fact that there's so much going on within that day. Having a tool to really put blinders on your insurance agents to just make sure that they know exactly what they should be doing next, it really does optimize everything in terms of kind of contact, qualification, and conversion rates.
Thank you so much. And obviously, I've seen this report 100 times, and my jaw always drops when I listen to this stat of 60% of the leads are not called a second time. And I can personally attest to that because I, talk to agents and interact with them here daily, so I know that is actually the case, and that's the sad truth. But hopefully everyone within the phone call here understands that it takes a process, it takes a strategy, and it takes the dedication of time. So thank you for that. This next topic I want to talk about, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but this next topic is what really has allowed me to combine forces with, Velocify and the system that they're producing here. You need to have a process, right, a system in place to be more effective with your leads. So a CRM, a leads management system, some kind to contact and follow up and nurture your leads. Because I like what Scott just added. He said, as much as we'd like for these to be one-call close, and I got to just interject really quick, a lot of times they are. I'll give you a quick example. This week, we signed a new client on board. And within the hour, ladies and gentlemen, he had called us back excited that his first opportunity, we call them opportunities, first lead he converted into a policy, and the second one sounded really promising too. So when we say that they're not all one-call closes, that's true, but they can be. This is where the sense of urgency tip comes into play. But for your nurturing of leads and for your follow-ups, you need to have a strategy and a sophisticated system. And for this, the expert, Scott, back to the platform. You with us, Scott?
Yep, I am here.
Why don't we you want to do this poll real quick, and then we'll get to you?
Sure, sounds good to me.
All right. Sorry.
So next poll question is, what is your organization's status in having a defined contact strategy for reps to follow up on leads? Is it something that you don't have a process? Have you thought about it but not necessarily been sure where to start? You have one but have not always followed it? Or is it something that you actually have one and it's working well because you're seeing the results of having something implemented and having kind of that process take place across every lead that comes in your system? So go ahead and submit that when you have a second, and then we'll take a look at the results. Perfect. So looking at here, what I'm really happy to see is 63% of everyone has a system right now, and it is working well. Ideally, that should be the case in 2018. However, I will say this. I have been to so many conferences before in the last 5 years working at Velocify, and I still see insurance agents walking around with big binders full of printed out paper leads. And I always ask and just say, is this for their benefit? Is this something that, when you go to their desk, are you seeing Post-it notes and pieces of papers and self-reminders? And it's still one of those days that if 40% or more people aren't necessarily using the tools in place and they think that they're being successful, it really goes to show you what could happen if you actually implemented the right type of sales tools. So,
and I'll add something to this real quick, Scott, if I may. I like what you said about somebody carrying leads in a binder and things like that, because I do experience that sometimes when I talk with agents that have a legal notepad where they jot down Adam Smith's name and telephone number, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that happens to be their only follow-up tool. There's definitely a problem with that. I had an occasion, guys. I'll tell you this quick funny story. We were trying to earn this insurance agent's business at one point in time. And he threw us off a little bit when he said, "Hey, can you fax me over the leads that you send me?" And first of all, I thought, well, some of my team members were like, "What's a fax machine?" Obviously, they were being funny. But to remind you guys, these are real-time internet leads, and he was asking us to fax the lead over to them, which obviously we don't do that. We can't do that. So having the sophisticated system that gets inline into the integrated. So that's very, very important. And I'll toss it back to you, Scott.
Perfect. So I just kind of want to harp on, again, some of the key points that we see within kind of looking at all these organizations. But speed, discipline, and productivity kind of comes down to those three pillars in terms of comparing what an organization should be doing when they're selling insurance versus kind of what has historically been deemed as an okay process. So as we said before, for speed, conversions really do increase up to 400% when that lead is contacted within that first minute. And that's just the key of let's get there, let's be the first one there, and then ideally that way the consumer knows my name, my company, and what I'm going to do, which is reach out to them ideally later that day. And when comparing that to the kind of industry averages, the average business takes over 48 hours to respond to an online lead. So having that lead basically sit in an agent's queue for 2 days really does water down the overall potential of closing that deal. In terms of discipline, we really hit home that contact rate increases 138% when attempting that prospect up to 6 times. And when looking at it as the average business attempt, as we said, 50% or more businesses don't even make that second phone call. That just goes to show you how much advantage you can have over the competition if you really do harp that kind of consistency and discipline to make those contact attempts. And then last of all, productivity. Implementing an effective solution can really double down on an agent's productivity because it really does allow them to just focus on what is most important, which is contacting that right type of prospect at that right time, instead of having a lot of sales reps where we did a poll recently, and a lot of the times we saw that sales reps spend up to 75% of their day almost determining the next steps rather than actually engaging with the consumers. So it's one of those things where the businesses that can eliminate the noise and chaos are often the ones that have implemented some type of sales process that is based around lead generation and sales automation.
Nice. All right. If I were to narrow down just two points to this entire, webinar, what I would say is, number one, this is really all about strategy and mindset, right? Strategy and mindset. So the strategy part is, get connected with the appropriate CRM, the system, the process that you have in mind, and on the how-to, right? What steps do I got to take? Which lead vendors am I going to work with, and all that, and building relationships with my vendors and things like that. The second part is equally as important, and some might say is even more important, is mindset, ladies and gentlemen. Tip number 6 brings us to make it work. So I'm going to commit to making sure that I'm going to make this work because I'm going to make it work. Failure is not an option for me on the overall picture, although, failures, the small failures obviously lead to great success. What I'm trying to say is this. One of the reasons that I'm partnering up with Velocify is because you need to have a strategy in place and appropriate CRM in place for all this to work, and the right mindset that this is going to work because I'm going to make it work, right? So the combination of these two forces is going to help you become successful. But again, it's not going to work unless you work the system, you work the process. So the leads is not the magic get me out of jail free card. It's the, hey, I have to make this thing work, and it's only going to work if I work it effectively. You want to add to this real quick, Scott?
I think you nailed it home. I think it's just a matter of being able to really kind of have something in place that will basically allow a person to know what is their most important task, how do I reach that person, and how can you cut down the amount of time in between those kind of internal decisions. And the faster that you can make that just kind of a data-driven decision really will show a meaningful impact on kind of your overall kind of qualification conversion rates.
Awesome. Couldn't agree with you more on that. And just really quick, since I have you guys on the phone, let me just tell you who Contactability is. Founded in 2012 by an insurance agent who is experiencing the same challenges that you have experienced and are currently experiencing. This number that I'm showing in the slide right now has probably more than tripled since this slide. over 150,000 quote requests and calls per month. Consumers are asking to complete detailed 35 questions upon the quote application in order to complete the process. One of the things I'll just kind of throw in here, you'll notice calls. One of the things that we guarantee is a contact rate and a consumer ready for a quote, where your phone rings, not just you reaching out to them. So we have a lot of things in place to solve some of the issues and concerns that you have as an agent here with Contactability. So at the end of this slide, after we answer a couple of questions, you'll have some contact information here, how to contact us if you're interested in learning more about it. So absolutely. Tell us more about Velocify.
Perfect. Velocify, as you know, is kind of that sales automation tool that is just going to help everyone from the insurance agent experience a little bit better results, all the way up to the sales managers seeing the instant real-time access to data analytics to kind of drive the business decisions. We were recently acquired by a company called Ellie Mae, which will help us kind of grow our position within the financial services industry. But at the end of this as well, we'll send over the contact information for anybody who'd like to see a little bit more about our solution in general, and we're going to make available our Ultimate Contact Strategy one-pager so you can really get into kind of the specific type of questions that are nailing the evolutions in the sales cycle that have been made, the speed to contact, persons indicating interest and getting a phone call immediately, emails and text messaging nurturing, creating multiple touch points with the consumer, and then instant access to pricing and quoting tools. Let's create an engaging environment rather than a fact-checking qualification session. So to be able to kind of have all of that available at an insurance agent's fingertips really will help them be more successful at their job.
Awesome. Cool. I think we're at the end of the slide here. I want to open this up. Tracy, do we have any questions here that we've gotten from the audience? So take it away.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Alan Scott, for walking us through those great tips. And the first question for our speakers looks like it's for Scott. And someone's asking, what are the common pitfalls that are facing sales reps in today's industry? And how can marketers shift their strategy as a result to support them?
Sure. And I think we kind of hit on this a lot, but I'll kind of nail it home. But the key is, a lot of times when we kind of meet with a lot of insurance agencies that are opposed to using technology, they rely on what used to work: gut feelings, self-reminders, trusting the agents in terms of what they told you that they've done throughout the day. Those type of practices don't really cut it in 2018, because in reality, what you should strive for is the elimination of human error and trusting a tool to put you in the right decision. And overall, that's going to really give you a superior advantage over your competition that are using kind of those notebook binders full of paper leads that they're writing notes in the margins and almost kind of creating a quoting price in terms of what they should be doing using a calculator rather than having a system that can instantly get that information out to the consumer before even making that first phone call. The other thing I kind of really harp on is you really need to embrace marketing automation and sales automation. Marketing automation is key because it's a time where insurance agencies are really kind of looking at company-dictated rules of engagement versus that sales rep saying that they have their own way of working leads. And what was once considered kind of a luxury in terms of being able to have a automation tool like that is now really becoming a necessity in order to drive the right results. And then kind of on terms of the sales automation accesses, I really kind of view it as putting blinders on a sales reps. Let the reps focus completely on the task at hand, and being able to offer guided selling is really necessary in order to scale sales teams and your organizations in terms of being able to get people started and working for your team and having them immediately have everything at their fingertips to work more leads than what their competitors are kind of starting off on day one.
Great. Thanks, Scott. The next question is for Al. What should I look for when I'm purchasing insurance leads?
What should I look for when I'm purchasing insurance? Well, that's an easy one. I'll tell you, if the company name is Contactability, then it's a thumbs up. Guys, Listen, this is a good question, though, and a valid question, so thank you for asking that. There are a couple of things that I would just kind of highlight that you look for. And surprisingly, price is not always the direction you should go with. Listen, you can go online right now and not only find leads for $1, but probably find free leads all across the internet. And if they're free, by all means, guys, take them. Take anything that's free. As long as it's not going to waste your time, you might get something out of it. But don't make a determination of which lead vendor to go just on price. Look at number one, reputation. How is the reputation? Do they have, a BBB rating that's great? Build that right rapport with them. Look around and ask your fellow agents, who are you experiencing the greatest success with? And I'll also throw in that I have a lot of agents that work with multiple lead vendors, right? So they have maybe put them back to back and see which one after a period of 30 days has worked more effectively with you, and obviously continue to invest your marketing dollars on the one that works the best. Filter options, right? What exactly are you looking for in a client? Does this company have those filter options for me? Are they able to integrate with my current CRM or dialer or tools, right? Those are good questions to be asking the lead companies. Do they put my needs first as an agent or as a person I'm talking to really only interested in getting a sale? Those are little red flags that I'm always talking about. Is this person really going to set my account up the right way? Is it more trouble than it's worth? If you really care about me and my success of my agency versus just adding a potential commission to his or her paycheck, right? So the tone that you get, the feel for what you get as well. A lot of times I got to tell you, follow your gut. You don't know how many times you're right on that perspective. The ease of use of their back office is a key too. If they have the ability to walk you through, maybe do a little tutorial, show me your back office. How easy is it to navigate? How complicated is it to navigate? The user friendliness of the tools they have available. Those are very, very important things that I would, look for a lead vendor. And again, it's not always about price, but in an apples to apples comparison, sure. Ultimately, if the price is triple what I'm looking, around, then that should be a red flag too, right? So while it's not always the only determining factor, it's something I would look at for obviously getting a better and stronger ROI. And I will also add here that, you got to sometimes make investments in several lead companies to really get a good feel for which is going to bring you more success. So I hope that helps.
Awesome. Thank you. So that's the last question we have for today. So just want to thank the audience as well as Al and Scott for participating in the session today. We'd appreciate your feedback and ideas for future topics that you're interested in hearing about. So please complete the survey, which will appear upon exiting the webinar. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tracy.